Hollywood has always been a place where talent shines, but where pressure also suffocates. A place where millions dream of being seen, and those who are seen fear losing their place the moment time begins to move. This is the story of the faces that defined eras, the careers that shaped generations, and the choices, sometimes medical, sometimes emotional, sometimes pressured, that led to transformations the world still talks about. Not because these stars were flawed, but because Hollywood has never learned how to let people change naturally or age without fear. Today, we revisit these stories with respect, not to criticize appearances, but to understand the intense environment that pushed these legends into difficult decisions. Marlon Brando, the titan who outgrew his own legend. Marlon Brando didn't just act, he redefined what acting could be. In the 1950s and 60s, he became a cultural earthquake, shaking Hollywood with a power and vulnerability that few could match. Brando wasn't just handsome or charming, he was raw, magnetic, and transformative. Audiences didn't simply watch him, they felt him. Every glance, every gesture, every whispered line carried weight, intimacy, and intensity that changed the landscape of cinema forever. He wasn't merely performing, he was challenging the way the world understood emotion on screen. But behind the brilliance, another story quietly unfolded. Brando struggled emotionally for decades, battling the invisible tolls of fame, complicated family dynamics, and the endless expectations of being Hollywood's so-called perfect leading man. By the time he arrived on the set of The Godfather, he was already navigating deep personal battles, a life layered with stress, inconsistency, and emotional strain. The constant microscope of celebrity meant that every action, every choice, and every inch of his personal life was scrutinized. There was no room for error, no space for private grief or personal reinvention. As he aged, Brando openly expressed a feeling of entrapment, caught between the person he truly was and the image the world demanded he maintain. Unlike some of the celebrities who turned to cosmetic procedures or drastic reinventions, Brando faced a different form of transformation. The pressure, the expectations, and the relentless gaze of Hollywood began to change him subtly, invisibly, yet profoundly. He carried the weight of an industry obsessed with youth, perfection, and image, a burden that no talent, charisma, or fame could entirely offset. Brando's story is not one of tragedy in the traditional sense. He wasn't destroyed by fame, he was overwhelmed by the emotional demands that accompany extraordinary success. The intensity that made him legendary also made him vulnerable. The very qualities that audiences adored, sensitivity, depth, and honesty, left him exposed to the pressures of an unforgiving world. Aging, stress, and expectation reshaped him in ways that no procedure or cosmetic adjustment ever could. Brando reminds us of a powerful truth. Sometimes the weight of fame changes a person far more than the passing of time. It's not wrinkles or physical transformation that tell the story of Hollywood's pressure. It's the invisible toll of being constantly scrutinized, of having one's humanity overlooked, and of carrying the burden of perfection in a world that celebrates image over essence. Brando wasn't a casualty of aging. He was a man navigating a world that refused to allow him space, breathing room, or reprieve. And it was that pressure, not time, not vanity, not choice, that truly transformed him. Bridget Fonda, Hollywood's next big thing. Who walked away? In the 1990s, Bridget Fonda was everywhere. She was smart, talented, magnetic, the kind of presence Hollywood loves to mold into an icon. Critics praised her performances. Audiences adored her. She seemed poised to become one of the most enduring stars of her generation, a figure whose name would be remembered for decades. Every role she took, every scene she graced, carried a sense of promise. She had the charm, the skill, and the work ethic to sustain a long, successful career. Then, almost as suddenly as she rose, she disappeared from the public eye. The reasons weren't scandalous. There was no career collapse or dramatic fall from grace. There wasn't a controversial incident or personal crisis splashed across tabloid pages. Bridget Fonda simply chose to step away. It wasn't a retreat forced by others. It was a conscious decision to redefine her life on her own terms. The Hollywood machine, relentless in its demand for attention and image, would have expected her to stay, to keep producing hits, to keep being a product for the world to consume. but Fonda refused. A turning point came in 2003 with a serious car accident that forced her to reevaluate everything. Her priorities, her peace, her future, all became urgent considerations. In a career defined by public exposure and professional pressure, she recognized the cost to her personal life and well-being. Fonda didn't vanish because she had to. She chose to vanish because she wanted something else. A life where she could exist as herself, away from the glare of cameras and the relentless judgments of a city obsessed with its stars. Today, whenever new photos of her appear online, people rush to assumptions. They speculate about why she isn't performing, why she isn't visible, why she no longer conforms to Hollywood's expectations. But the truth is simple. Bridget Fonda owes the world nothing. She isn't obligated to maintain her celebrity. She isn't required to perform, to appear, to entertain. She is, first and foremost, a human being who chose a quieter, more intentional life. Her story isn't about changing her appearance or conforming to trends. It's about reclaiming autonomy in a system that often strips it away. In a city built on fame and spectacle where stars are measured by visibility and relevance, Bridget Fonda's decision to walk away remains one of the boldest moves Hollywood has ever seen. She reminded the world that even in the midst of adulation and opportunity, personal peace is a choice, and sometimes stepping back is the most courageous role of all. Rob Lowe, the face that survived a decade of excess. Rob Lowe was the 1980s personified. He wasn't just a young actor with talent. He had the kind of charisma, confidence, and screen presence that made Hollywood studios chase him relentlessly. Every film, every magazine cover, every public appearance reinforced the idea that he was destined for stardom. But fame arrived quickly, faster than anyone could have predicted, and with it came a pressure few are prepared to handle. In his early 20s, Lowe was already facing the pitfalls of instant celebrity. The parties, the media scrutiny, the expectation to always perform and maintain an image. It all piled up. Personal struggles, burnout, and public controversies threatened to derail a career that had barely begun. The Hollywood machine, as glamorous as it looked from the outside, can be unforgiving, and Lowe found himself navigating the fine line between brilliance and self-destruction. Yet, he managed to rebuild, not through flashy reinventions or dramatic career stunts, but through patience, discipline, and a focus on personal wellness. He prioritized stability, surrounded himself with people who supported him, and committed to making thoughtful choices both personally and professionally. Slowly, he regained his footing and earned back the respect of Hollywood, proving that even those who stumble can recover with resilience and care. Still, the pressure to maintain appearances never truly fades in Tinseltown. Lowe has been candid about his routines, skincare, grooming, and fitness, not out of vanity, but because the industry relentlessly measures success by surface-level perfection. Behind the charm, the interviews, and the perfectly curated images lies the reality that even the strongest stars live with invisible pressures, constantly aware that public perception can make or break them. Rob Lowe's story is a reminder that fame is never just about talent or luck. It's about endurance, self-awareness, and the ability to navigate a world that expects everything at once. His journey shows that even the seemingly untouchable stars have private battles, and that recovery, self-care, and patience are just as heroic as any role played on screen. In Hollywood, the real triumph isn't always winning an award, it's surviving the system and staying true to yourself along the way. Kenny Rogers, a voice so powerful, even fame couldn't prepare him for the pressures of aging. Kenny Rogers was more than a singer, he was a living legend. His voice, warm and comforting, carried stories that resonated across generations. From country classics to crossover hits, he built a career that made him beloved worldwide, admired not just for his talent, but for his kindness and authenticity. Yet even someone as iconic as Kenny Rogers wasn't immune to the pressures of a youth-obsessed entertainment industry. By the early 2000s, Rogers faced a challenge many public figures encounter: aging in full view of the world. In an industry that prizes perpetual youth, Every line, every wrinkle, every change in appearance can be scrutinized and criticized. Feeling this pressure, Rogers underwent cosmetic procedures, choices he later admitted he regretted. His honesty about these decisions was striking because it revealed a truth about Hollywood few want to acknowledge. The pressure to conform isn't always about vanity, it's about survival and acceptance. Rogers reflected on his experience with remarkable candor, saying, "I wish I hadn't done it. I was trying to look a certain way." That simple, unguarded statement captures the heart of his struggle. He wasn't chasing perfection, he was responding to the relentless demands of an industry that often equates relevance with youth and beauty. For Rogers, the procedures weren't a personal failing, but a response to an environment that made him question his natural self. In sharing his regrets, Rogers offered a lesson far greater than any stage performance could. His vulnerability humanized the cost of fame, showing that even icons wrestle with insecurities, expectations, and the fear of being left behind. Hollywood didn't just sell music and movies, it sold ideals of appearance and constant youth. And even a legend like Rogers felt compelled to conform. Kenny Rogers' story isn't about mistakes, it's about honesty, courage, and the struggle to reconcile self-worth with external pressures. His legacy endures not only through his timeless music, but also through the way he spoke openly about his choices, reminding the world that even stars are human, that even legends face insecurities, and that the bravest thing a person can do is admit when they were influenced by forces beyond themselves. Rogers remains a symbol of talent, heart, and the quiet strength of vulnerability. Katy Perry, the star who broke under pressure and then stood back up. Katy Perry burst onto the pop music scene like a comet blazing across the sky. Her costumes were bold, her music catchy, and her energy seemingly limitless. From the moment she appeared on the global stage, the world watched, in awe, in curiosity, and inevitably, in judgment. Behind the sequins, colorful wigs, and playful stage personas, Katy faced pressures that most people can hardly imagine. Every performance was analyzed, every outfit dissected, and every personal choice scrutinized. In a culture obsessed with perfection, she was never just an artist, she was a symbol under constant observation. While tabloids often speculated about dramatic cosmetic procedures, Katy herself confirmed only minor tweaks, subtle adjustments, nothing extreme. The real challenge was not physical alteration, it was the emotional strain that came from living under a perpetual microscope. Stress, burnout, relentless media scrutiny, and the expectation to reinvent herself constantly created a heavy burden. Katy's daily life wasn't just about singing or performing, it was about meeting the impossible standards of a global audience while trying to remain authentic. Each new release, each public appearance, came with a wave of commentary that could lift her up or tear her down. The scrutiny was unrelenting, and for someone as open and expressive as Katy, it could feel suffocating. In interviews, Perry has been candid about reaching a breaking point. She described moments of emotional exhaustion where it felt as though the world's gaze had become unbearable. But her story isn't about vanity or superficiality. It's about the human cost of fame. The constant comparison to other celebrities, the pressure to maintain a perfect image, and the expectation to be both a pop icon and a relatable person created a relentless cycle. Behind the glitz, glitter, and viral moments, Katy Perry faced the same vulnerabilities as anyone: doubt, fatigue, and the fear of disappointing others while trying to stay true to herself. What makes Katy Perry's journey remarkable isn't that she adjusted her appearance slightly, it's that she endured the weight of the industry's expectations and emerged resilient. She confronted emotional challenges head-on, taking control of her mental health and public narrative. Her openness about burnout and personal struggle adds depth to a career that, on the surface, is all fireworks and candy-colored visuals. It reminds audiences that behind every performance, every smile, and every viral moment, there is a real person managing stress, pressure, and the very human desire to be seen for who they are, not just what they represent. Katy's story is ultimately one of resilience and perseverance. It shows that fame and talent do not exempt anyone from vulnerability, and that emotional health matters more than appearances. She continues to perform, create, and inspire, not because she conforms to impossible ideals, but because she refuses to let them define her. In a world quick to judge, Katy Perry's experience stands as a reminder that surviving and thriving under public scrutiny is a triumph in itself, a victory far more meaningful than any cosmetic enhancement could ever be. Tara Reid, Hollywood's harsh lesson in how public pressure can change a life. Tara Reid was once the golden girl of early 2000s Hollywood. With her bubbly personality, carefree charm, and instantly recognizable face, she seemed destined for a long and sparkling career in the spotlight. Audiences loved her energy, and studios were eager to capitalize on her appeal. She represented a kind of youthful fun that was both approachable and glamorous, a rare combination that made her stand out in a crowded industry. Yet behind the smiles and red carpet appearances, Tara faced pressures that few outsiders could understand. As her fame rose, so did scrutiny. At the height of her career, Tara underwent cosmetic procedures, choices she made privately, but which quickly became public fodder. Tabloids seized on every detail, exaggerating and twisting the narrative into a cautionary tale about celebrity transformation. Headlines were harsh, judgmental, and often cruel, painting Tara as if she were defined entirely by changes to her appearance. The media treated her not as a human being navigating personal choices, but as a symbol of Hollywood's obsession with perfection and youth. Tara herself has been open about the emotional weight of that period. She spoke candidly about struggling with confidence, trying to meet industry expectations, and feeling the pressure to maintain a certain image for both studios and audiences. The criticism wasn't just a minor inconvenience, it took a real toll on her mental and emotional health. Being judged so publicly while simultaneously trying to find her own identity was exhausting, isolating, and, at times, devastating. For a young actress still learning to navigate the complexities of fame, the experience was a harsh introduction to the unforgiving nature of Hollywood. What happened to Tara Reid is not a story about vanity, nor is it a simple tale of appearance changing. It is a story of a young woman trying to grow, adapt, and find confidence in an environment that constantly scrutinized her every move. It's about the emotional toll of public judgment, the pressure to conform to an ideal, and the loneliness that can accompany fame. Hollywood often forgets that its stars are human, that behind the red carpets, paparazzi flashes, and magazine covers are real people with insecurities, hopes, and struggles. Tara's experience is a cautionary tale not because of the procedures themselves, but because of the lack of understanding and support she received while under intense scrutiny. It's a reminder that fame is a double-edged sword. It brings opportunities, admiration, and visibility, but it also exposes individuals to relentless public evaluation and unrealistic expectations. Her story challenges us to look beyond the surface, to recognize the emotional challenges of life in the spotlight, and to offer empathy rather than judgment. In the end, Tara Reid's journey is a testament to resilience, surviving, learning, and continuing forward despite an industry that often prioritizes image over humanity. Jennifer Grey, the dancer who performed one of Hollywood's most misunderstood transformations. Jennifer Grey's story is one of the most talked about and often misunderstood in Hollywood history. After the release of Dirty Dancing, she became an overnight global sensation. Audiences adored her, her talent was undeniable, and her charisma lit up every screen she appeared on. Yet behind the fame and applause, Grey faced a harsh reality that many young stars encounter: relentless public scrutiny of her appearance. Every interview, every article, every red carpet photo seemed to invite commentary, often harsh and judgmental. No matter her accomplishments or her skill, people fixated on the way she looked. In an attempt to address her insecurities and respond to this constant scrutiny, Grey underwent a cosmetic procedure. What happened next was unexpected. The procedure transformed her look more than she anticipated, and the consequences rippled through her personal and professional life. Hollywood, an industry notoriously obsessed with image, struggled to reconcile the new version of Jennifer with the one audiences had already fallen in love with. Roles that had once seemed available evaporated. Casting directors and producers viewed her differently, not because her talent had diminished, but because the familiar image that had defined her was gone. Grey has spoken candidly about the emotional toll of that period. She described the experience as walking into a room and being completely invisible. For a performer whose work relies on being seen and recognized, this sense of invisibility is devastating. The industry's reaction was not a reflection of her abilities, but a demonstration of how rigidly Hollywood clings to fixed images of its stars. Once someone deviates, even slightly, from the identity that audiences or executives have in mind, they risk being sidelined or overlooked. Her story isn't simply about a cosmetic procedure or a change in appearance. It's about identity, public expectation, and the pressures that Hollywood imposes on those who grow up in the spotlight. It's a story of how fame can become a trap, but behind every transformation, whether emotional, physical, or medical, there are real human stories. Stories of pressure, expectation, and insecurity. Stories of aging in a world obsessed with youth, of reinvention when the old version no longer fits. Stories of fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of being forgotten, and sometimes simply the desire to try something new, to regain control in a life that is rarely fully theirs. These celebrities didn't ruin their faces. They didn't lose themselves. They didn't fall from grace. What they did was live, the same way anyone does, but under circumstances few of us will ever understand. They aged, sometimes gracefully, sometimes awkwardly, and they made choices while carrying burdens most people can't even imagine. Every decision is amplified, every mistake scrutinized, every moment public. Their lives are not just their own, they are mirrors of collective expectation, cultural obsession, and the relentless spotlight of fame. Hollywood shapes people before anyone else ever does. It demands, it molds, it pressures, and it judges, often harshly. Sometimes it celebrates, but just as often it criticizes. And when a celebrity's appearance, behavior, or career trajectory changes, the world reacts as if the person has committed a crime. But these are just people navigating extraordinary circumstances, trying to maintain identity, dignity, and sanity in a machine that rarely allows for either. In the end, these stories aren't about superficiality. They are about resilience, vulnerability, and humanity. They remind us that fame is a double-edged sword. It brings success and admiration, but also scrutiny and pressure that can reshape someone in ways outsiders will never fully comprehend. Celebrities live in a world that constantly tells them who they should be, how they should look, and what they should feel, all while expecting them to remain perfectly themselves. So when the conversation turns to change or mistakes, it's worth remembering the context. It's worth remembering the pressures, the expectations, the very human struggles behind the headlines. These stars didn't simply transform. They endured, adapted, and survived in a world that few of us could navigate. And in that survival, there is strength, courage, and, above all, humanity. If there's one truth these stories teach us, it's this: aging is not failure. Changing is not failure. Trying something new is not failure. Stepping away from fame is not failure. What is failure is the way the world forgets that celebrities are human beings with the same fears, hopes, insecurities, and emotional struggles as everyone else. The real issue isn't what changed. The real issue is how society reacts when it notices someone changing. These stars didn't lose anything. They simply evolved, sometimes under pressure, sometimes under a harsh spotlight, sometimes under emotional weight. And their stories matter because they show the cost of living a life where the world never stops watching.